Yeah.
So let's do this. Let me. We'll give you the big update here. This is the news story. I want you to see this. This is the AP's official report. That's it. It's one sentence repeated twice. From the AP, judge bans Proud Boys leader from nation's capital after arrest on vandalism and weapons charges. And then it says, that's the title. And then it says, Washington AP, judge bans Proud Boys leader from nation's capital after arrest on vandalism and weapons charges.
That's
the whole story.
Article. Wonderful.
Some pretty deep reporting, AP.
Yeah.
But so the other thing, he got arrested, Enrique. So he arrives in D.C. We talked about it yesterday. He had 2 high-capacity magazines on him, not even weapons. DC's laws are so strict, you can't even have that. You can't have ammo. So we got a misdemeanor charge for that. But I think, with a lot of some of these supporters saying that they want to, come bringing weapons, we'll see if people actually show up. I don't know if there was that many people there today, but tomorrow is supposed to be the big day. Today was just like a preliminary event. But I think it'll get particularly interesting. But I wonder if, there's going to be, I guess, the political willpower among Trump supporters to actually go and do anything that might change really anything, I suppose.
Well, I don't think they can. I think it's just more of a, a rah-rah, we're showing our spirit and support kind of thing, because they protests. I get that it's part of a, just trying to keep morale up, but I generally dislike protests.
Me too.
On any side. Yeah. I think for the most part they're useless. And you want to go down to DC tomorrow, be my guest. I'm not saying don't do it. You'll be around a bunch of people that are like-minded, and it'll be great, and you'll have a fun time. Is it going to do anything? No. Absolutely not.
This is why Louis Gohmert said the message basically from the Supreme Court was that conservatives need to be as violent as Antifa and Black Lives Matter.
See, I see what I get what he's saying. I don't agree with it, but the fact is that Antifa and all these groups are not being maligned by the media, right? So then you can say, well, hey, we're doing the same thing as Antifa. They're not catching any flack. You're only going after us because we're conservatives, we're Republicans.
And that's what's going to happen. How many Antifa people have been, snatched up as soon as they enter, then barred from DC? That's the crazy thing about this. Does a judge have a right to kick you out of a city? That's kind of nuts.
Do you think that this is something that will, there'll be some kind of lawsuit down the line? Do you think that that's something that could happen?
I don't know. I got to be honest.
GoFundMe and just kind of...
The really hardcore Trump supporters get mad when I say stuff like this because it's true, and I guess they don't want to hear it. And it's that conservative, look, you voted for Trump, Andrew?
Passed. No, I did. Of course I did.
Right.
Yes.
But you're not going to go protest. You don't like to protest.
Right.
And I'm not saying this is disparagingly. It's just I think most of the people who recognize what's going on don't want to go out screaming, smashing, burning, destroying.
Right.
And Trump supporters don't do that.
Exactly.
They don't. And so Antifa does, and Antifa wins. And then the police protect them. Not always, but often. Even when they do get arrested, the district attorneys cut them loose. Conservatives they don't go out, they don't get active, they're not loud, and thus they're not paid attention to. And it's another reason why a lot of people in media are scared of them and will not cover this stuff. Because they know they'll get attacked.
But also, look at what happened to Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, they'll
when they are defending, when they go and defend, when they try to make a difference, when they try to push back, then they get totally screwed. And then
so
what
if 10 million
supremacists.
people showed up in DC and said enough? You'd make a change.
What are they going to burn down? The Trump
I'm not saying
hotel?
burn on anything. I'm just saying if they actually showed up in mass, which they don't do that either.
It depends. It depends also how much institutional support you have, because when we see protests, sometimes they do make a difference, sometimes they don't. When it came to the Iraq War, we saw some of the biggest protests in the United States, and it absolutely didn't do anything. And now another thing to really consider here is a lot of leftist and a lot of left kind of thinking leaders are always making the argument that you need to riot. You need to burn down businesses. You need to be violent, because when you do, you are heard. And there are examples that they specifically point to saying that there was injustices. We protested. We peacefully marched. Nothing happened. This is what the left says. This is not what I'm saying.
Right.
But they're saying, but when we did riot, we finally did get the national media attention. We finally did get everyone watching us. We finally did get change because we put our words to action and actually made something that made people look at us and watch and actually do something. That's the argument that the lefts are making that should be somewhat kind of considered here and talked about, honestly.
Listen,
well, instead of I'm sorry, Tim. Instead of a protest, you can have a movement like the Tea Party movement, which is something that made a difference. That was a thing that actually changed. We took back the Senate, essentially.
I mean,
we took
any
back
real
Congress.
life change though?
Well,
because
but we're not burning down buildings.
I'm not advocating. I'm not advocating.
Not everything has to be the French Revolution.
No, I'm not advocating for it, but we need to kind of lay out their kind of philosophy and their actions to understand it, and I think there's some fair points that they bring up.
I kind of think this is like the new form of protest on the internet. Like Tim making a video, you protest in your videos. You're like angry about something and you're protesting that thing. This is ridiculous. Look at this. And people are listening. People listen to this. I think we stopped a war in Syria in 2012 because of our internet protest. So that's why I don't go to these giant crowds where you get smunched in like a sardine, and if they fire mustard gas, you're going to choke to death or whatever.
You're right, but it's not 2012. You say 2016?
2012.
2016 is when it happened. You know why? Donald Trump got elected, and that's what stopped the escalation.
I remember
in Syria.
2011 when they were talking about.
We put boots on the ground.
It was 2012, 2013 when they said that he had gassed his own people and Obama was going to take us in.
The red
and
line,
there was
right?
something. I remember We Are Change being involved with it. I might be wrong about that, but I think you guys were real vocal about it.
You're right, but your ears are off. Obama did bring us in. Then people on the internet started posting memes, complaining, propping up Trump and pushing for Trump. Trump wins, and then Trump immediately says, "I don't want to do this."
What I'm thinking of is before Trump. It was
Not
Obama,
perfectly,
and
he
Obama
did
decided we're not going in.
Obama put soldiers in Syria. Period. But it happened.
Yeah, but
no one stopped
it wasn't
him.
a full invasion like Iraq and
Well, they were planning to Libya to do the same thing that they did in Libya and Syria, and there was a lot of extensive pushback, but also there was a lot of protest. I mean, I was a part of filming a lot of people and their voices, and it was in a time and period where the internet wasn't fully censored yet, so those voices were extremely popular. But we also have to remember it was also Russian warships that literally went in front of American warships right next to Syria and said, you do this, we are going to have a bigger conflict and a bigger fight here. Now, the topic of protest, it's a very interesting one. You could point to examples where it didn't do jack squat. You could point to examples where it did do something, like in Poland with the Solidarność movement, where people, peacefully protested, they petitioned, and they also just had a workers' strike, and that helped make a big difference.
Well, that's a bigger
movement,
thing,
right?
too.
That was the solidarity, right?
Yes.
Yeah, in Polish.
And that brought people together against the communist government that was ruling their lives and being very unjust. So so there are instances where it works and it doesn't work. So we need to understand we can't just see it as black and white.
But you're talking about I'm talking about protests, right? But then we talk about then you mix in worker strikes, and then it's a bigger it's part of a
farmer
movement.
strike.
Let me ask you a question though.
Yes.
If 1 million Trump supporters showed up in DC tomorrow and blocked all the roads, how could a joint session of Congress even happen to count any votes?
Maybe they're all in D.C. already. I don't know.
Maybe it can't. I don't know. I'm just imagining, I think, what did Alex Jones say? 10 million people or some ridiculous number? Did he say 10?
I don't remember exactly, but the legal amount that they're allowed to have is 30,000.
At an event?
At the protest tomorrow.
Well, forget about the legal amount.
Yeah,
then that's when you want to go, well, what are they going to do?
Exactly.
Send in the National Guard. They can't do that.
What if so many people show up that the roads are blocked, not even intentionally, and it obstructs the process by which DC is supposed to function? Geez,
they'll have to remote it in. Well, then, what a novel concept.
Then that's...
You say, what else have the phone in?
They'll have to remote. Yeah, they'll have to do it by remote in the 21st century. Oh, wow.
But how do you verify the person who's voting is the real person?
You gotta stream it live on Skype chat.
No, there's filters people use all the time to mask and do.
They would do it through WebEx
and live.
They would vote through WebEx.
Yeah, it would be.
How do you know they're not an Android in Congress right now?
No, but we do have deepfake live filters and stuff like that. So they come in and they vote in person. But they are doing a lot of remote voting.
Maxine Waters,
the point
Snapchat.
I'm saying is. I think it's a fact that there's a certain number of people that can shut down, any city.
That's true.
If they just peacefully protested.
But a protest is, you're talking more about a shutdown. That's
No, I'm saying.
Well, here's the question.
Hold on. Like, if a million people were walking around in D.C., they'd shoulder to shoulder on the streets in many circumstances, not even intentionally blocking anything, they'd be in the way, making things impossible to do.
I mean, it's a Wednesday. Do you think that people are, there's going to be a million people there?
No. I'm not saying there will be. I'm just saying,
or that there could.
I'm
be
saying that
even.
a protest could have that power. A protest of that size would have such a massive impact. It would really obstruct things.
But it wouldn't obstruct, yes. But would it change something?
It sounds like you're saying, Noah, get the boat. If we can't deal with corruption and bloat, and I love AOC just being this progressive who supports Nancy Pelosi in basically everything. It's amazing. At least, like, when you look at the Republicans, you have Republicans for and against Trump, and it's kind of split. 12 senators supporting him and a bunch not. Right. Look at the progressives. They're like, well, we will vote for Nancy Pelosi even though we hate her guts.
Right.
Why? Well, but we don't want Kevin McCarthy to be, the speaker
exactly.
of the House. If they know you're going to bend and just give them whatever they want, they'll never give you what you want. I'd be willing to bet Kevin McCarthy could cut a deal with the progressives, and they'd probably say better than nothing.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you just to slightly derail? You were on the ground for Occupy Wall Street.
Yes.
Huge. Would you say that was a protest or a movement?
It was a movement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did it do anything? Ultimately, did it do anything?
It got the DNC to transfer all their funds from, I think it was Bank of America, to Amalgamated, which was a union-controlled bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which was a big victory for them.
That
was one of the things they wanted.
There's a lot of people moving their money from big banks to local small banks and local
credit unions.
Absolutely.
Credit unions saw a major boost, so it was really damaging to big banks. It really was. When you go down and talk to all the random people and their different ideas, it was lovable chaos.
Yes.
How they had no idea half the time what they were really fighting for, but they did create certain amounts of pressure. I remember we were there at that Bernie Sanders book signing, right, Luke? Was it you were there in DC?
I believe so. Yes.
And then
yes.
we were waiting in line for I think it was meat or something, like in a buffet. And the guy, I'm pretty sure it was you and me, and the guy was saying next to us saying that he worked for credit unions. And that because of Occupy Wall Street, they saw something like $500 billion transfer from banks into credit unions. Credit unions are nonprofit banks that reinvest in their community. So when when I worked for American Eagle Airlines, we had the AA credit union. So that meant that money, that profit went towards loans for, employees, our union members to buy stuff. There's also, I'm a member of the Navy Federal Credit Union is probably shouldn't say what bank I'm using, but it's armed service personnel. And so the money that would normally be profit for shareholders is reinvested, giving the members amazing benefits. Like with Navy Federal, you can travel internationally and it's like no international fees or exchange rates. It's awesome. And that's because armed service personnel frequently get deployed to various places. So that was big. That was great. That was, I think I often advocated for many occupiers to see that as one of the biggest and most important victories possible, taking away economic power from big corporate banks and bring them to nonprofit community-centered credit unions. Because I would always complain these Antifa types would go and smash windows and stuff like that, right? And I would say, what do you think happens when that $30,000 a year banker shows up for his job in the morning and there's glass all over his desk and his computer? He's going to be like, what did I do? I don't understand. Why did you attack me? When you show up and you spray paint or bolt the doors shut or whatever, I'll tell you what the most effective protest would be. Don't smash the window of the bank. Put on a nice pair of slacks, a nice button-up shirt, stand out in front with some pamphlets, smile and shake hands, and give pamphlets for credit unions that reinvest in low-income communities. And then guess what? How much damage can you really do to a bank when you break a window? $1,000 maybe? Mm-hmm. But you'll make all of the working class people there hate you. How much damage could you do if you convince just 5 people in 1 week to move their average savings to a credit union? That could be $100,000, $20,000.
Yeah, those banks are flimsy, man.
Yeah.
If they lose a small percentage of their funds, they go under.
Yeah. People need to understand voting with your dollar, voting with your actions is absolutely insurmountable. It is so critically important. And I think maybe we could even just mobilize, or even we should talk about this privately, put out some call to actions to actually help support local small businesses rather than, of course, the big mega corporate giants that are out there. And another thing that I wanted to bring up, because I know you want someone to say too. Say,
you got to get a
go
picture
ahead,
of them pointing at each other.
Just go.
Dave Portnoy.
Yes, he started
Yes.
doing it himself. But before we get into Dave and what he's doing, one of the best protests that I've seen and heard about, and I've seen the memes about, were of course the protests in Japan, where bus drivers who were angry at, of course, their company for not giving them the proper wages, they decided to protest by, of course, continuing their job, not striking, but they didn't charge people to enter the bus. And of course, the bus company owners had to, of course, capitulate to their needs because they had all these people using their services. They didn't disrupt normal life. They didn't piss anyone off. They just really made sure that they did something that actually had a huge ramification that was still something that everyone was happy about.
Yeah, but you brought up a good point about fighting for small businesses. It's one of the best protest things you can do right now. Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports started that fund where how much did they raise? Like millions of dollars.
12 million last
12 million.
16, yeah.
Wow.
Last week?
Super
To
high.
help people whose businesses are hurting because of the lockdowns. That's now first, I'll say that's direct relief. It's one of the coolest things I've ever heard in a long
Best
time.
thing ever.
The next step is, how do we stop the politicians who are taking a dump on the Constitution and destroying people's businesses? So, you know what the answer is? Really simple. Protest.
What will that do?
Yeah.
If people just went about their business like there was no lockdown rule,
Define. Oh, well, that's a good form of
non-violent
protest.
civil disobedience, showing up and opening your doors, and if everybody did it, there'd be no lockdown, and the cops can't do anything about it. They can
Just
say,
defy the order.
just if everybody, instead of going around and marching, just open the doors to their businesses and says we're open, then there's no lockdown. It's over.
I think all of these businesses, you could protest. You could protest by prorating your property taxes, saying, well, look, you had me shut down for this amount of time. I'm not going to pay the taxes for that amount of time because I couldn't make any money.
Taxmen show up to your door with some guns and say, I don't care.
Yeah, I go through these things. Where
Government wants its cut, baby.
I want to
Well, then you
tell
can't
people to do certain things, like to not pay tax. But I feel like that is like a form of incitement, to tell people disobey the civil authority if the civil authority is bad or evil.
Well, what you could do, then they would maybe take you to court, and then you could go, well, then I'm countersuing, and and this is the reason why, and then maybe there could be. I mean, it sounds like there's some justification to that, right?
That's what the American Revolution was based on. So yes, that
So
is
there you go.
justice.
I think I'm wearing the appropriate shirt for this
I
discussion,
think you are.
to say the least. But again, many things we could do, many different small actions. But again, it all comes down to people being aware of what's going on so they actually know what actions to take. And I definitely think we need to mobilize and organize a lot more than just the kind of pontificating and thinking that we do here. And I think that might be a next step that I think we should really kind of consider.
You know the biggest problem I think we have as freedom-loving individuals? I swear, it's these like whiny fence-sitting podcaster types that will talk all day and night about all the problems, won't actually organize
sit in
anything,
their house.
turn the camera on, complain about something, and then do literally nothing about it. I can just imagine some of these people sitting there with like their open button-ups and their beanies,
I know,
complaining
right?
all day for a year, and
What
then
I-
literally
Imagine.
not even doing anything
What I
about
like
it.
about internet video is you're turning words into action. It is something. You're creating something. You're not just talk. I mean, and speaking is a form of action. But when you record it and turn it into a commodity, you're creating something with your words.
But you're also being an influencer, and that's a very important thing, to help
I was
people shape
half
their.
kidding, but I think there's an important point in. There's a lot of people like us who will be like, man, all these things are bad. Oh, don't look at me. I'm not going to run for office and do anything about it. I'm just upset. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.